Hello, and welcome to the AI Challenge, an introduction to artificial intelligence, background, risks, and key considerations, our first in a series of lectures on AI. I'm Laura Protzmann, a lawyer focusing on AI claims in the marketplace. I have built my career as an advertising, intellectual property, privacy, and consumer protection lawyer. Before turning my focus to AI, I spent many years as an in-house lawyer at several large food companies. My focus on AI came about a couple years ago as I was looking for a career transition. It started with work around use of AI in elections and evolved into a broader focus that brings together my years of experience as an advertising and privacy lawyer. I'm thrilled to be here speaking about AI.
Thank you, Laura. Hi, I'm Ron Levine. I actually am a professor here at Rutgers. I teach at the program on Masters of Business Science, where I've actually lectured on artificial intelligence. Most of my courses are on food regulation and alcoholic beverage regulation and other related topics. I'm also in private practice as an attorney, where I have served, among other roles, as a General Counsel of my law firm, and artificial intelligence has been a major issue in our profession. I've been looking at it, the issue, I've been writing about it, and I'm very, very pleased and honored to be lecturing to you today on the subject.
So what is artificial intelligence, or AI? AI refers to computer systems that simulate human intelligence and are capable of performing tasks that otherwise require human intelligence. These systems can process and analyze vast amounts of data, can reason, and can improve over time. AI systems can perform tasks such as pattern recognition, decision-making, and automation. They are used in speech recognition, image analysis, and predictive analytics in all sorts of fields, such as healthcare, finance, customer service, and more. We'll talk in more detail in this presentation about many of these topics. But first, let's turn to how we got here. So the next two slides have a lot of detail, and I'm not going to read it all, but I do want to highlight a few key moments in history. Despite all the recent focus, the field of AI actually goes back to 1950. Alan Turing set the stage for modern computing and AI. His 1950 paper, Computing Machinery and Intelligence, proposed the Turing test, a measure of a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior. This test is still used today. The term artificial intelligence was coined in 1956 at a Dartmouth workshop, which was widely considered the birth of AI as a formal field. Early breakthroughs included the perceptron in 1958, an early artificial neural network, and Joseph Weizenbaum's ELIZA chatbot in 1966, which laid the foundation for natural language processing. The term ELIZA effect is still used today to describe the tendency of humans to attribute greater understanding to machines than they process. After a so-called AI winter, progress slowly started to pick up again in the later 1980s when Yann LeCun, Yoshia Bengio, and Patrick Hafner demonstrated how convolutional neural networks can be used to recognize handwritten characters. Think about using your bank app to deposit a check. This is considered the beginning of modern machine learning, which led to deep learning and current large language models. There was also IBM's Deep Blue, which defeated chess champion Garry Kasparov in 1997, showing the capabilities of artificial narrow intelligence and large-scale calculations. For a long time, AI was driven forward by the academic world and later by big tech. What is notable in tracking this progress is that this is the first major technological innovation that was not driven by the government, the way GPS or the internet was, for example. Moving forward to the 2000s, when progress begins to speed up. Fei-Fei Li's ImageNet in 2009, which is a huge collection of images that were hand-labeled into different object categories, accelerated the development of image recognition tools. This is also around the time that GPUs, or graphic processing units, think NVIDIA, began to power neural networks and accelerated AI research. So by 2012, Geoffrey Hinton and his colleagues introduced a deep convolutional neural network architecture powered by GPUs that won the ImageNet challenge, demonstrating that deep learning could achieve breakthroughs in large-scale image recognition. Then in 2014, Ian Goodfellow and his colleagues invented generative adversarial networks, or GANs, a class of machine learning frameworks used to create images, including deepfakes. As you can see, progress is really picking up. AlphaGo's victory in the game Go in 2016, and importantly, the development of transformer models in 2017 that could automatically use unlabeled text. As you'll remember, ImageNet, just a few years earlier, had to use data labeled by humans. This research was critical to the development of ChatGPT. Transformer is, of course, the T in GPT, the model underlying ChatGPT. You can see how each new development builds quickly on the last one. This all brings us rapidly to the current moment in this post-ChatGPT world, where AI is more widely available to so many more people.
There are a number of key components driving this AI success. There's certainly been advancements in machine learning algorithms that have improved all the capabilities of AI, but also the availability of big data. The social media, internet, industry data enables better training of AI so it can pick up the data that it's using to come to its conclusions and information it shares with the user. There are powerful computer resources, such as the cloud and GPUs, that accelerate processing speeds. And the whole network of AI and the architecture and the chips that are available have made major advancements very quickly. So as we've seen, it's been around for quite a while, but only in the last few years has AI really made huge progress. So what has made these major advancements in AI so important in the last few years? There have been a number of factors impacting the advancement of AI. One has been the advancements in machine learning algorithms, and we'll be talking a bit about what an algorithm is a little later. The other is an advancement in big data. That is, social media, the internet has put billions of data points available to AI to learn from and develop the information that it shares with the user. There have been powerful computer resources through the internet and through chips that have made major advancements possible in the last few years. There have been innovative neural networks, and most importantly, there's been an increased investment in AI most recently, and as we've been reading, some of the major companies really fueling Wall Street have been coming out of the AI world and supporting developments. What is an algorithm? I just mentioned an algorithm. It's a feedback loop. It's a recipe for cooking that makes it a feedback to the user that is a loop, constantly learning and relearning facts. It's not really a linear program as we learned about probably in those early days in computer, but it's something that feeds on itself and develops AI learning through this, what's called an algorithm. Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I always think of it as a recipe, right, as we were talking about, but it's almost at this point a self-learning recipe, right? It's like, it makes a cake and then it makes it better the next time all by itself. It's really interesting how it's developed in the past few years.
What are some of the human contributions? Well, everyone who's listening to this today is making a contribution to AI because they're feeding off social media, the internet, articles, magazines, newspapers, you name it. All of this is fair game for AI. And all of the surveys and research that's out there, AI can pick up unless it's secured down. So that's something to think about as you focus on AI, and that is your private information. You probably don't want to share that with AI, so it's important to keep your private information as private as possible so it's not picked up through the AI training models.
And to add a couple points that are very specific to AI, one of them being around copyright. There's a big open question right now about whether certain data on the internet that was used to train these models was protected by copyright, about whether companies using that data and material were allowed to do so, or if they're infringing on third-party copyright. It's an area that still needs to be worked out, but it's similar actually to the early days of the internet where there were similar issues. And of course, you mentioned privacy, which is another big one in terms of how the data is collected, how it's used, whether it was used with consent, whether it was properly protected, And if it wasn't properly protected, what kind of risks might come from that? With all this data, it really raises some significant questions that need to be examined.
Yeah. So at the heart of all this has been the development of chips. That's the devices that are used to power the memory systems in AI. They have powerful computer powers that really require a great deal of energy to process the information and to develop these algorithms. The chips have become a major issue in international affairs because countries are fighting to who's going to control the chips and who's going to own them. And something that we've been talking about, import controls when it comes to chips, so that we control what stays in the United States and what's developed overseas, because whomever and whichever countries have the strongest chips may have the greatest power over AI.
Okay, so let's turn to some definitions, AGI and superintelligence. These terms are talked about a lot these days. This begins a conversation of what is intelligence. It's hard to define intelligence, and if we don't know what human intelligence really is and how the human brain operates, how can we really define what is artificial intelligence? But let's start with some possible definitions of these terms. So artificial general intelligence, or AGI. One definition is that it's a stage of AI development where a machine can understand, learn, and perform any intellectual task that a human being can. Unlike narrow AI, which is trained for specific tasks like playing chess, AGI could possess the broad, flexible cognitive abilities of a human. Artificial superintelligence, one definition of that is a more advanced stage of AI that significantly surpasses the cognitive abilities of the most gifted human minds across virtually every domain. Superintelligence is generally considered a follow-on stage to AGI, potentially emerging rapidly through a process of self-improvement once AGI is achieved. There's no real alignment on what these terms mean or when they might happen, but we still need to think about how do we know if machines are really intelligent and whether they can operate autonomously. It challenges us to think about what can happen and what do we need to plan for. So here are some general applications of AI, some examples of what AI is used for. Many may be familiar to you. We have chatbots, image and speech recognition, translation, content generation, which can be text, images, and even computer code. That's often referred to as generative AI or Gen AI. Sentiment analysis, which is identifying the tone of text, for example. Autonomous agents, and virtual reality. It's important to note that many of these applications use similar underlying technologies, either as a core component or in some supporting role. Specifically, they use large language models, or LLMs, which is a category of models trained on immense amounts of data, making them capable of understanding and generating natural language and simulating human conversation, like in a chatbot, and generating other types of content to perform a wide range of tasks. LLMs are built on a type of neural network architecture called a transformer, which we talked about, which excels at handling sequences of words and capturing patterns in text. So a particular type of chatbot is an AI companion. So this is a specific use of chatbots, and an AI companion is designed to simulate human-like interaction and companionship and prioritizes building a personal, ongoing, and emotionally supportive relationship with the user. Standard chatbots or virtual assistants focus on performing specific tasks upon command or using a prompt, but they may also actually be used as companions. AI companions provide support to those seeking companionship, including potentially vulnerable groups like teens, the elderly, and those seeking mental health support. There are some concerns because of the ability for chatbots to persuade us and reinforce negative thoughts, such as self-harm, eating disorders, suicide, and violence against others. Chatbots are designed to provide answers and support, but not to challenge the user. This is a problem, of course, because it can play to people's vulnerabilities, to their grief, their mental health issues, making these issues worse. Companies continue to work to address these issues and build in better guardrails. AI agents. An AI agent is an autonomous software system that uses AI to perceive its environment, to make decisions, and to perform tasks to achieve a specific high-level goal. It is more advanced than a simple AI assistant who can answer questions but only responds to direct prompts. So the components include perception, data gathering from the environment, reasoning, which is the brain, the analysis of that data to understand context and make decisions, which is often powered by an LLM, the memory, which is both short-term memory for tasks and long-term knowledge memory, action, which is the actual interaction with the environment for task execution, and learning, improving performance by learning from feedback and past experience. AI agents can be used in all sorts of areas such as customer service, marketing, logistics, research, coding, and more. But there are some concerns: privacy, security, hallucinations, and misrepresentation. Automated agents could take unsafe action or give false information, which can create significant problems and risk if there's no human oversight. We still need to determine when a human should be in the loop and consulted for decisions as we roll out these agentic systems.
I think all of us have had experience with all of these different agents at some point or another in AI. We all started with Siri or Alexa, and in the early days, it just answered a question: what's the weather? Who won a baseball game last night? But now, as we've just heard, they're much more advanced, and they're actually engaging in a conversation where they're coming back to the user, asking questions with follow-up. You never expected that years ago when you were dealing with Siri and Alexa. In terms of using an AI agent, consider the possibility of speaking into your AI device and saying, book a flight for me to Miami for tomorrow, and what's the best flight and what's the cheapest flight. Imagine your phone doing that for you, looking at your calendar, knowing what flights you've taken in the past, and really knowing you as well as probably better than you know yourself. That's what AI can do for you.
Yeah, which also reminds me of your earlier comment around privacy. A lot of information that goes into allowing that AI agent to do all of that stuff: access to financials, access to your computer, your calendar, your email, et cetera. So it's something that could be really exciting and helpful, but also we need to make sure all that information is properly protected. So where do you interact with AI in your daily life? We'll talk about some more specific examples of AI in the coming slides, but let's start with a list of some common uses of AI. Most people use AI in their daily life, even if they don't realize it, because as we've been talking about, AI has been used for many years, long before the recent launches and excitement around chatbots. Some examples include banking tools, healthcare diagnostics, voice assistants, smart home devices, customer service chatbots, productivity tools, spam filters for your email, recommendations in your TV streaming services and for shopping, facial recognition, online ads, and search engines.
So with an amazing device in AI, you can just imagine how businesses have been taking advantage of it. And it really is important for anyone in the business world, no matter what your job is, to know something about AI and to know some of these issues that we'll be talking about. AI is used both internally by businesses in terms of developing products, supply chains, sales opportunities. It's also dealing with marketing and customers constantly, because it can pick up and listen to customers where you don't have to hire somebody to answer the phone. But AI, as we well know, when we make calls, we're often dealing with an AI agent. Well, there's where AI has taken over a job and is doing the work for the business. So it's very, very important to understand how your business is using AI and what impact it's having on the people working in the business. Anyone who's gotten a text or a notice saying someone's using your credit card may think that there's somebody sitting at the bank or at the credit card company actually monitoring the use of your credit card. No, it's AI 24/7 monitoring everything that's going on and looking for odd activities. That's detecting fraud. It's processing vast amounts of data that no human being could possibly process at one time and taking in the information. In the financial world, and I mentioned this in the last bullet point, there's some risks involved in AI being used in the, say, Wall Street. That is, if the AI programs are picking up some problem and they all pick it up in unison, it could drive down the stock of a company, perhaps not appropriately, but just happens because all of the AI algorithms are saying, hey, there's a problem here. So that's one of the issues where human beings, where say a broker was sitting there and saying, nah, I know more about what's going on and it's not a problem. AI may all jump on it at one time. That could be a big problem in our financial world. AI is very exciting in the medical world in terms of drug discovery, diagnosis, and personalized medicine. Much of the recent advancements that we've been hearing about in medicine are a result of AI dealing with personalized evaluations. For example, AI could look at a whole bunch of x-rays and pick up some problem that maybe a doctor might not see as readily. It can also review research and millions of studies and research programs and find some kind of pattern and perhaps solve a mystery of a weird illness. There are many, many uses for AI in the medical world. I recently had an appointment with my primary care physician. In the old days, you'd go in and they'd take notes or they'd type into a computer. He asked me if it was all right to use AI during the visit, and he used a program which listened to the appointment, and the minute it was over, it generated a summary of the appointment along with recommendations for next action. He didn't have to do anything. I said, is this helpful? He says, my God, I don't have to spend hours writing up my notes every day. AI is doing it for me.
So many AI tools can also help support the ability of older individuals to age in place in a safe environment. So there's health monitoring. AI tracks vital signs. It detects falls or changes in condition. There's personalized assistance, reminders for medication and appointments, cognitive support through exercise. And AI can also allow for smart home integration to automate daily tasks. It can also provide emotional support, like we were just talking about. Chatbots can provide conversation and companionship, but as we mentioned, this can create issues for someone who may be struggling with loneliness or mental health issues, reinforcing or affirming negative feelings. So a concern here that definitely should be monitored.
Much of the advancements, or certainly a number of the significant advancements in AI have come out of the Department of Defense and research being done in that area. The military has been very active in taking advantage of AI because they know that if you can take the human out of the equation, it may be a lot better, of course, because people won't die. So they're using drones and tanks and other devices and vehicles which are controlled by AI, and we'll be talking later about autonomous vehicles as a major advancement in AI. One of the risks of AI in the military, of course, is it could be susceptible to hacking. That is, the enemy could possibly get into the system and corrupt it and create havoc where humans behind, say, the wheel or behind a rifle would not be in the same situation.
So some warnings and risks. We're going to look at several of these issues in more detail in the coming slides. We'll look at employment, potential job loss and decline in human skills due to automation, false results. AI hallucinations can produce inaccurate or fabricated information, a unique issue to AI. Deepfakes, which are AI-generated fake images and videos, can be used for scams and misinformation. Another issue that's even more pervasive with AI. We've talked about privacy and security, the large-scale data collection through training or use that raises concerns about breaches and misuse of sensitive data, including things like biometric data. Such risks can then be increased if the AI system is automated to take many actions quickly without human control. We need to make sure we integrate privacy protections into the entire life cycle of an AI system and implement robust security protocols such as encryption and access controls. We've talked about copyright concerns also already. We'll also look at bias, the risk of discrimination from biased training data, for example. And another concern we've mentioned already is energy consumption. AI systems, of course, require significant power, which can impact sustainability and energy costs.
I bet a number of you sitting here who are working are sitting around thinking, am I going to be replaced by a robot? Well, there are some jobs that are most at risk and others that are not as much at risk. So what are some of the jobs at risk? Data entry, processing, customer service representative. Certainly you might worry that a robot would be answering the phone if you're in that position. Bookkeepers and accountants, they might worry. Assembly line workers, certainly we know about automation in the workplace and in the factory. Retail salespeople, you walk in and maybe a robot would be preparing a coffee for you and you wouldn't need the barista behind the counter. Market research analysts, proofreaders, and translators. There's been stories lately about using an earbud that would do translation, so you could go to a foreign country and the earbud itself would be doing the translation for you. Radiologists, we talked about that. If an AI could review x-rays and give you a diagnosis without a radiologist doing it, that would be a replacement. Recently, Microsoft did a study and it found that the most likely jobs to be impacted by AI are those involving writing, research, and communications. And there they mentioned at the top of their list, translators, journalists, and historians. Of course, there are jobs that are more secure that probably don't worry as much about being replaced by a robot. Those are positions which probably involve doing something physical where, for example, a doctors or a nurse, teachers and educators, though I certainly you could think about a teacher being replaced by a AI working with a student to sort of go over work with them, and that's being used actively in some schools. Counselors, where you really want the human connection. Skilled tradespeople, where you need to work with your hands, like electricians, plumbers, carpenters, and athletes. I'm not sure we're quite at the point yet where everyone's going to pay to go watch a football game being played by robots. The same Microsoft study said that some of the jobs that are less at risk are nursing assistants and, interestingly, massage therapists. So they're not worried that somehow those jobs are going to be replaced by robots anytime soon. This is an issue, the decline in human skills, that worries us, certainly in academia and all over the place, and also worries me when I put on my hat as a practicing attorney. That is AI going to lessen the skills to do research and analysis where you can easily go to AI and get the answer? We worry in academia that students would go on AI and take the exam and just feed it right in and give you the answer without doing the necessary thinking. So the studies have shown, and this is one study we reference here from the Journal of Educational Psychology, that heavy reliance on AI can actually impact some of these skills. So it's something for us all to worry about.
It is an interesting point and a good reminder that when we're talking about jobs and how to protect jobs, we really should think about what skills we want humans to keep and what tasks we think AI can accomplish. Humans are better at understanding context and nuance and even humor than AI is right now. So this should impact how we consider using AI and shifting human jobs. As this process unfolds, we want to make sure that critical thinking and other human skills are maintained and even improved. So let's talk now about hallucinations. Hallucinations are when a generative AI model produces outputs that are incorrect, nonsensical, or entirely fabricated, yet the model presents them as factual. This can happen with text or images. And the term, of course, is a metaphor. AI is not consciously hallucinating, but rather generating plausible sounding results because in reality, these models don't really know what truth actually is. AI can generate fake information and non-existent items such as false resumes, false citations to scientific articles or case law, false historical or other facts and stories. Again, this issue can also apply to mistakes in images. The causes are varied and not entirely clear and may be based on flawed or biased training data, lack of real understanding or reasoning by the system, or overall system design. Many people believe that this is a feature, not a bug of LLMs. There are ways to mitigate this issue with improved and narrower training data based on verified information or by pointing the system to more specific sources. But most importantly, There should be human oversight and verification of AI outputs in any area where truth or accuracy matters.
AI has the ability to replicate and copy someone's voice, someone's image, and make the person appear as real when they're not real. This is a horror story from 2019 in which a energy firm CEO was scammed over the phone when he was ordered to transfer 220,000 euros into a Hungarian bank account by an individual who used audio deepfake technology to impersonate the voice of the firm's parent company's chief executive. I recently closed on the sale of my home, and the title company had to go through all kinds of hoops to make sure they were dealing with a real person. They had my accurate wire information, because it's very, very possible if someone got wind that money was going to be wired to me to impersonate me and give a phony bank account and have the money sent to a criminal. That's going on all over the place. It's a big problem. It's very important to watch who you're talking to and to know you're not being scammed. There's something that certainly I've heard about in my own personal family, in my family and elsewhere, and it's called the grandparent scam, where a grandparent gets a call from someone who says that they're their grandchild and it sounds just like them. It says, "Hey, I've been arrested. I need money sent to me immediately. Wire it to me. Don't tell my parents." And grandparents have been defrauded by that. My recommendation there is to have a code word in the family, and if you ever get a phone call like that, have a word and say, "But give me the code number so I know it's you."
Yeah, and as the technology gets even better, this is going to become a bigger and bigger issue, not just in audio, but also in video.
Yes. Well, here we have some fake video or photographs. We know about photoshopping, but these are very, very good, and it's hard to know they're not for real. One shows what is the purported arrest of Donald Trump. The other one is a doctored photo that makes it look like Barack Obama's meeting with someone he's actually met with the Indian Prime Minister, and it makes it appear as if he's meeting with the Iranian president. People are going to be deceived. It's happening in elections. It's happening all over the place, in the arts, in sports, and even in schools. There have been bills introduced in Congress and in states to protect kids whose faces are being superimposed on nude bodies and circulated in the school. It can be humiliating to a child to have their picture circulated, and it appears as if, and as a nude photo. And it's actually pretty easy to do. There are programs out there that'll do it, and something that needs to be controlled. Right now, and they're getting better, there are some ways to spot a fake photo, and here's an easy one for you. You can certainly tell that those hands on that person are not hands but feet. There are usually some telltale signs that something is not up, but people are getting better. But it's important to really rely on news sites that you know about, and don't jump when you see something on the internet or on one of these social media services where it's something out of the ordinary. There are too many doctored photos out there where AI is being used to come up with something that's not real.
So let's turn now to bias in AI. So one definition is the systematic and unfair prejudice or discrimination in an AI system's output that leads to unequal and potentially harmful outcomes. Potential causes could be biased, unrepresentative, or incomplete training data, human bias in design and labeling of data, algorithmic bias, and feedback loops that cause models to become even more prejudiced over time. There are a lot of ethical implications of AI bias, including the reinforcement of societal inequalities and unfair outcomes, all of which could undermine trust. There are also mitigation strategies to consider, including using more representative and diverse training data, audits and assessments, employing diverse development teams, and increasing transparency into how AI systems arrive at their decisions, a concept referred to as explainability, which will also lead to greater accountability. So examples of real-life impact, there could be impacts on on healthcare and insurance outcomes, such as, for example, certain groups could be predicted to have lower medical costs because they have historically been denied access to medical care, which could then impact insurance coverage. Healthcare data does not include certain groups that could lead the AI tool to misdiagnose cancer or other diseases in those groups. There are also representation issues. For example, you ask the model for pictures of a doctor or CEO, and you get pictures of all men. So a responsible AI approach can help address all of these issues. A responsible AI program is a comprehensive framework for developing, deploying, and managing AI systems in a way that is ethical, transparent, and accountable. Such a program is built on several key elements that ensure AI systems align with human values, comply with regulations, and minimize potential harm. The principles essential to a responsible AI governance model include transparency, explainability, privacy, security, consumer consent, confidentiality, addressing bias, safety, ethics, sustainability, human oversight, and alignment with human values. Most of these issues we've been talking about already, either directly or indirectly. But one topic to note that we have not talked much about is safety, which is designing and rigorously testing AI models to ensure they are secure, resilient to adversarial attacks, and able to handle unexpected inputs and conditions. Bringing these principles into clear, actionable policies and standards with regular audits and assessments should guide the responsible design, development, and use of AI systems across any organization. We need to ensure that AI systems are developed to augment human decision-making rather than replace it, with mechanisms for human oversight and intervention, and that we know who is accountable, especially in cases of failure or unintended harm, and how it is all documented. So how do we do this? AI soft law governance is one possible answer. In our next lecture, we will discuss the answer to this question in much more detail. That lecture will be AI Best Practices, Key Principles of Regulation and Self-Regulation. We will discuss how soft law can help provide accountability to a responsible AI system. A quick overview of the concept of soft law, which is in contrast to the hard law of laws and regulations passed and enforced by government. Soft law can take the form of independent industry self-regulation, private and technical standards, trade association best practices, or professional society codes of ethics. The advantages of soft law include that industry often has more expertise than government, and this expertise can be bolstered by coordination with nonprofits, non-governmental organizations, and civil society organizations who can add accountability and credibility. Soft law can more easily cross borders and address issues internationally. Soft law is also more flexible and agile and can help address emerging issues with new technologies, allowing smaller businesses to compete, as well as allowing U.S. companies to compete internationally.
We've come up with perhaps this memory device using the name Rutgers to highlight some of the key issues we've been talking about. First, for the R, we have regulations, which we'll be talking about more in the next lecture. Uniformity, that's something I've mentioned and we've talked about. Transparency, key issue in AI is knowing what's behind the black box and what information is going into the system and how reliable it is. Group privacy, of course. Ethics, the heart of all of our concerns. Risk management, dealing with some of the problems we're going to be encountering that we've heard about, and safety, which Laura just mentioned. Again, it's something that we all need to deal with. If we're going to be talking about soft law, I'd emphasize that's something that everyone who is listening to this lecture should worry about and think about. When you talk about hard law, it's something written in Congress or in the state legislature. Soft law is written by everyone. It's written by businesses, and it's written by the people working in the businesses. So it's something for you to get active in and to think about how it impacts your own company.